Dragon Quest III's HD-2D Remake is almost here, and boy is it a joy to play on the Steam Deck. It feels right at home for portable play, and even though it has some minor issues, it's easily the best way to experience this classic entry in the Dragon Quest series. But it does need some tweaks to really experience it optimally on the go. So in this video, I'm going to check out Dragon Quest III's Remake on the Steam Deck and show off our recommended settings and why I recommend them. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. This game is also recorded on the Steam Deck directly, so you may have slightly better performance than what you're going to be seeing in this video. In terms of content, Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake is best played on the Steam Deck. Major JRPGs like this tend to be a little bit content heavy, so being able to use the Steam Deck Suspend Resume really helps with going through the very long playtime for this game. However, I found a couple of little issues that I wanted to change up to make playing on the go a bit better and more stable throughout the entirety of the game. There are multiple ways I found to enjoy the game, but they don't differ much from our recommended settings. It isn't an extremely demanding experience, so small changes are needed to optimize it. Still, I want to provide options for those who want it. Each group of settings prioritizes visuals, since I feel it's a very important part of the HD-2D games, so they're going to be as clear and pristine as possible. While most of the game runs exceptionally well on the Steam Deck, I found a few smaller issues. There are a couple of areas that do drop the performance below 60 at the default settings, which has everything maxed out, and there are a few more areas that have higher battery drain than I would like for a game like this, going up to 17 watts to 21. However, I wanted to find a way to fix this without compromising the beautiful visuals, so I played around with the settings a bit and found a solution I was happy with. There are two things I want to change specifically that should make it not only more stable, but cap the battery drain at around 16 watts. First, we set the frame rate cap to 45 frames per second and 45 Hz on LCD or 90 Hz on the OLED. Luckily, going down to 45 frames per second does not really feel like it loses any of that smoothness that you get from playing it at 60. Second, I recommend bringing down the render scale to 2 instead of 3. Not only does this not affect visuals as much on the smaller screen, but it ends up saving a ton of battery. The biggest difference I saw was some slight faraway blurriness and a little more graininess on some surfaces, but these are small, with the rest of the game still looking phenomenal. I did try turning down other settings, and while reducing shadows can help, some faraway shadows will pop in, and I really did not like that. I feel that this is a great compromise to keep the game feeling smooth and looking great, as well as lowering the battery drain to save hours of charge, so I could continue playing without needing to plug in. If you don't mind the higher battery drain, you could use a 45 frames per second lock with max quality settings, and it will still stay very stable. The only issue is that it could bring the battery drain above 18 watts, which I feel is way too high, but it is still playable. Of course, some people are just going to want to play at 60 frames per second anyways, and luckily doing so is not that hard. You can still use the same render scale change that I just talked about and get a solid 60 frames per second throughout the entire game. You could also keep the settings to their default, which will have some areas drop to the mid 40s, but it doesn't happen as often, so it's still very playable. I would say the render scale changes are worth it for the stability and keeping the visuals as pristine as possible, but if you can deal with minor drops here and there, you can keep the rendering scale up. Personally, I think both groups of settings that I just talked about have great battery life, and you shouldn't have an issue there, but if you really want to maximize it, there are a couple of extra changes you could make to get even more battery life. On top of the render scale staying at 2, I recommend lowering shadow quality to 1 and turning ambient occlusion off. It does impact visuals a little bit more than I would like, but it's not enough to really make a change to the overall aesthetic and atmosphere. This allows us to set a TDP limit of 6, which allows us to cap the battery drain at around 10 to 11 watts, and it increases battery life to around 5.5 to 6 hours. As for other parts of the game, the text size isn't super small or unreadable, and everything works perfectly on the Steam Deck. There are cloud saves and solid controller support, but there are no HDR settings. Either way, it's still going to be great, and if you have an OLED Steam Deck, those colors are really going to pop. Overall, Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake is a wonderful time on the Steam Deck. It feels right at home for portable play, and while it can be improved with some minor changes, it's still really perfect for this kind of experience. There are some little issues I found here and there due to it sticking so close to its roots, like how long some text can take to come out, but it's a game worth playing for anyone who's a fan of JRPGs. If you want to know more about what we think of the content portion of the game, go ahead and check out our written review where we go more in depth. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a big thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.